Think about the last conversation you had. Maybe it was a text, a meeting, a sentence shouted across a room. You probably don't remember it. It was effortless, automatic. But for the first 2 million years of human existence, none of that existed. No words, no sentences, no names for things. And yet somehow, groups of early humans coordinated hunts, built shelters, raised children, and formed communities that spanned generations. So how? How do you build a society when you have no language to build it with? The answer will permanently change what you think communication actually is. Let's start by destroying the assumption. When most people imagine early humans without language, they picture something close to animals, isolated, reactive, surviving alone or in small, chaotic groups held together by nothing more than proximity. That image is wrong. Dangerously wrong, because the archaeological record tells a story of organized, coordinated, deeply social creatures operating with a sophistication that had absolutely nothing to do with words. Here's what the science actually shows. Around 1.8 million years ago, Homo erectus sites in East Africa show consistent evidence of group living. Not just families, groups, multiple adults, multiple generations, sharing space, sharing food, sharing labor. The question isn't whether they live together. The question is what held them together without the one tool we assume is necessary for everything. The first answer is the one nobody expects: smell. Before language, before gesture, before any deliberate signal, the human body was already broadcasting. Cortisol, the stress hormone, is detectable in human sweat by other humans, even without conscious awareness. Fear spreads through a crowd, not because someone announces it, but because bodies read bodies. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone released through touch, through proximity, through eye contact, builds attachment between individuals without a single word exchanged. Your nervous system was doing social work millions of years before your mouth could help. Researchers studying modern human infants, who have no language and limited gesture, have documented something extraordinary. Infants as young as 14 months demonstrate clear social preferences, form attachment hierarchies, respond to fairness violations, and coordinate simple shared tasks with other infants. They do all of this without words. Because the architecture for community was always older than language. Language didn't create human society. It inherited one that already existed. But biology alone doesn't explain the scale, and this is where it gets extraordinary. At Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, dating back nearly 2 million years, evidence of controlled fire use tells us something that goes far beyond warmth. Fire is not just a tool. Fire is a social technology. It creates a boundary. Inside the firelight, safety. Outside, darkness. That boundary forces proximity. Proximity forces interaction. Interaction, repeated night after night across thousands of generations, builds something that has no name but every human alive has felt: belonging. Anthropologists studying groups that still live close to original human patterns have found that fire fundamentally changes behavior. During daylight hours, interactions are practical, task-focused, efficient. But when fire is lit and darkness falls, something shifts. Bodies orient toward the light. Eyes meet across the flame. The social brain activates in a way it simply doesn't during daylight. Fire didn't just keep early humans warm, it created the conditions for community to form. And it did this entirely without words. Now here's the part most documentaries skip entirely: grooming. Not as hygiene, as currency. In primate societies, physical grooming, the careful removal of parasites, the deliberate touching of another body, is the primary mechanism of social bonding. It builds trust, establishes relationships, communicates alliance and affection across species that share no language at all. Early humans inherited this system directly, but at some point, something changed. The groups got bigger, too big for physical grooming to reach everyone. Primatologist Robin Dunbar made a striking observation. As primate groups grow larger, grooming time required to maintain social bonds becomes physically impossible. There simply aren't enough hours in the day to touch everyone enough to maintain the network. So what did early humans do when their groups outgrew their hands? They found a substitute: laughter, shared rhythm, music. Archaeological evidence from sites across Africa and Europe shows bone flutes and percussion instruments appearing well before the cognitive revolution associated with complex language. These weren't decorations, they were social technologies. Shared rhythm produces neurological synchrony. Groups that drum together, move together, breathe together, activate the same bonding hormones as physical touch, but at scale. 10 people around a fire could be socially groomed simultaneously through rhythm in a way that 10 individual grooming sessions never could. This is why music exists in every human culture on Earth without exception. Not because it sounds pleasant, because it was doing social work long before anyone had the words to describe what it was doing. And then there was the body itself. Before spoken language, gesture was a complete system. The Nicaraguan Sign Language experiment, studied extensively since the 1980s, showed something remarkable. When deaf children with no shared language were placed together, they spontaneously invented a new, fully functional sign language within a single generation. The drive to build shared symbolic systems is so fundamental to human neurology that it doesn't require teaching. It emerges on its own the moment humans are placed in proximity with a shared need to communicate. Early humans had the same neurological hardware, the same drive, and 300,000 years before the first evidence of complex spoken language, they were already building shared symbolic systems through gesture, through touch, through coordinated movement, ritual, ceremony. The synchronized behaviors archaeologists find at early human sites, bodies moving together in patterns. These were not primitive dances. They were the original grammar of community. Here's where it becomes personal. Every community you have ever felt part of, every group you have ever trusted, every friendship that felt deeper than words was built on this same ancient foundation. The conversation you remember least is the one that mattered most. The shared meal, the side-by-side silence, the moment someone touched your arm when you needed it without saying anything at all. That is not modern behavior. That is 2 million years old. Language didn't replace the original bonding system. It layered on top of it. And in every human alive today, both systems still run simultaneously. The words carry the content, but the body carries the truth. The communities ancient humans built without language weren't smaller or weaker or more fragile than the ones we build today. In some ways, they were more honest, because every bond was made of something you couldn't fake with the right sentence. It was made of presence, of shared fire, of bodies that learned to read other bodies with a precision no algorithm has ever matched. The next time you feel connected to someone without knowing why, remember what that feeling actually is. It is not modern. It is not accidental. It is the oldest technology your species ever built, running perfectly, exactly as designed, 2 million years after the first human sat beside another human in the dark and understood, without a single word, that they were not alone.